comment about, oh, John, who said the thing about the pickleball?
Yeah.
Carrie,
No, I agree.
I know.
No,
What?
and save it out.
Second. Okay. He's never been.
I know.
One of these days. One of these days. Remember, he missed last year.
So next time.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, we're still the afternoon. Tuesday, January 30th, 2024. This is a special meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council. We are now in order. Ms. Linder, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Buck?
Here.
Councilors Winland?
Here.
Burdick?
Here.
Boop?
Here.
Rupp? Corrigan?
Here.
And Councilor Afghan is joining via Zoom.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Let us, please, everyone, we'll start with the pledge. Please stand, remove your hats, and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we convened this meeting to discuss the update on the wastewater treatment facility project. And I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Hooper, Director Hooper and company. Uh-oh.
Mike.
Oh, there we go.
My name is Anthony Hooper. I'm the Deputy City Manager. And as you are all aware, this is my last council meeting. I'm going to be working for the County of San Diego, and my last day is this Friday. So with that, I want to introduce my team and who's going to take over from me. So first, I'd like to introduce Kyle Rohrer. He's a VP of Utility Advisory Services for Corollo. And then we have Stefan Broadus, who is going to take my place, and his title is Director of Special Projects. And then I also have Jill Jameson on Zoom in case you want to ask any questions of her. She is president of Illuminati Infrastructure, and she is a P3 expert. And then in the crowd, I also want to recognize we have Erica Rooney and then Katie Kirkland, who are both very important parts of our project team as well. So I want to just give a quick overview of where we're at and then kind of why we're here today. So, we've been working on this wastewater treatment facility project since December of 2018, and we have made a lot of progress. So we've been partnering with the City of Portland, and they have been a phenomenal partner, and they continue to be supportive of the direction that we're recommending to you to go today. So we are currently at, we have 90% drawings. While we made significant progress on property acquisition, DEQ has given us a early draft of what the permit transfer could look like. We've done a lot of different studies, including coming up with operating plans and did environmental studies. So there's been a lot of work that's been done during the last 5 years, and that work is not lost. We'll be able to continue to use it. We're now at this crossroads of just completing phase 1, and we're about to go to phase 2. Phase 1 was all of those preliminary services I just mentioned, getting us to 90% of drawings. Now, what we're asking the council to do is to complete this phase with EPCOR. We owe them about $7.2 million for services they've already rendered. They have put that out of their own pocket to get to the design work to get completed, and that was from 0 to 60%. We've been paying the 60 to 90% out of pocket as we've gone, so that's already paid for. It's just this period of work that they have done. And just as an aside, the amount of design comes out to be about $10 million so far, and there's several million left over to finish it from 90 to 100%. But as a frame of reference, usually 10% is a good starting point for how much of the overall cost of construction should be for design, and the overall cost is about $185 million when you take out that $4 million left over for design work. So, I mean, we did pretty good compared to that kind of benchmark, and I think EPCOR put a lot of their own money into this as well to make this successful. And I just want to say that they did a really great job in this first phase, and we want to thank them for all the work that they did. And I think what we're recommending at this point is to enter in the relationship at that phase with EPCOR and move to exploring competitive procurement process to look at possibly removing the private financing part all the way from it and do design, build, operate, and maintain, DBOM. And so what I would like to do is turn it over to Kyle to kind of talk about what that next process could look like and what he knows about that market.
Okay.
Thanks. Hi, Kyle Rohr, Carollo Engineers. It's nice to meet you. I've seen you all, but I've never said hello. Hello. Anthony asked me to say a few words. I know you've had a really long day, so I'm going to be brief, which every time people hear me speak, they say there's no way Kyle's going to be brief, but I will be brief, just a few points. Before I do anything, just as a reminder to the group, Carollo Engineers has been working with Anthony and his team since 2018 or so, back in the fun COVID days when everyone was just on the screen. But since this is a public meeting and people are listening in, I just wanted to say thank you, Anthony, for your leadership on this project, and not to get emotional, but I know I'm speaking for my entire project team at Carollo and Hawkins and Jill Jamison that we really enjoyed working with you. And you're one of those clients that really gets teamwork, especially on a very difficult project, and we wish you luck in your next adventure. Anyway, that said, so a few words. I think the first thing I want to start out with is, okay, item 3 in the staff recommendation talks about a competitive proposal method. So not to get into weeds, and I know that the staff report just basically says to explore a competitive proposal method. You're not making any decisions here. We're just going to go away, Stefan and the new leadership here, to come up with information to educate you on what the DBOM model looks like. I can come back with a 200-slide deck if you want when you're not, Aaron says no, when you're not as burned out as you are now. So just very quickly, the difference of what we're calling the competitive proposal method to what you've been allowing EPCOR to develop is there's 2 primary differences. As Anthony pointed out, the DBOM method, design, build, operate, maintain, is absent of private financing. It'd be financed using public instruments, which are, as reflected in the staff report, generally more cost-effective way to build infrastructure. Secondly, and this is a little bit more subtle, but I'm sure you'll get it, is that the EPCOR process, one of the reasons that it took so long to get pricing is that we use what we call a collaborative delivery method or progressive delivery method, where we work with the design, build, operate, finance entity in an open book basis to develop the price collaboratively, for lack of better words. The DBOM model that we're going to use here is what they call in the business fixed price, where you're going to get guaranteed pricing for the design and construction, remaining design and construction of the project, plus a guaranteed first-year operations cost and some other financial promises in the proposal. So after we issue this next procurement, if you choose to go this path, you'll have pricing immediately, as opposed to another collaborative process. Second thing I want to say, which I'm sure most of you have this on your mind, is that how much of this $7 million worth of work can we reuse? I know if I was sitting in your chair, I would be asking that question. It is our hope that we can use a very large part of that. Under a DBOM model that we're considering doing, most RFP solicitations and technical bridging documents are designed to somewhere around 30% or so, give or take, some less. With that design, your design, build, operate, maintain team finishes the design enough where they can provide you guaranteed pricing. In our case, we're already developed to almost 90%. So we almost have more than we need to do a DBOM. But this is all contingent on the ability to reuse the technology and the approach that your EPCOR teams come up with. We're confident that in the technical bridging documents, we can promote the Aqua Nareda technical approach as something that is suitable for here. We've done prior studies at Corolla or prior initial investigations on what will work on that site, and we need a compact footprint. And Aqua Nareda checks all the boxes, and our Corolla's national wastewater expert agrees that it's a very good application. So we're hoping that the market feels the same way. That said, if the new DBOM team isn't favoring the Aqua Nareda approach, there is a chance that some redesign will have to be done. But as Anthony pointed out, at this point, 90% at $7 million or so is pretty competitive engineering services, in our opinion. Lastly, there's a market for this new approach, or your new approach. The design, build, operate, maintain model using public financing and guaranteed fixed pricing procurement has been in place for quite a while. In fact, I did the first two in California back in the late 90s. And actually, I worked with the city of Wilsonville on the design, build, operate that looks exactly, well, pretty much exactly the structure that you would be considering. The market knows it. The market's comfortable with it. You would be looking at most likely two different baskets, if you will, of competitors that would propose on something like this. You will have companies that will do everything under their own umbrella. There's probably a handful international companies that would be wanting to do this under their own single entity, of course. And then there's also, for this project in particular, because it's on the smaller side, I would not be surprised to see teams form, design build teams, designers with constructors, smaller operational firms coming together, again, though, as a single entity to sign the contract. You're going to have one contracting entity. So I would also see that basket of proposers stepping up. All of that said, part of the effort that we're going to do, to explore this process will include a market sounding. So next time I'm in front of you, on top of the too many slides you want to see, I'll also be able to give you information on what we think the market looks like for people being interested in this project. Having done a lot of these, I think this is a very attractive project, and I'm not particularly concerned about getting interest for it. So that's about as brief as I can be. I know I'm just scratching the surface. I can answer any questions that you guys have the energy to ask. And if not, I'm happy to revisit and see you guys again when we've gone a little bit further down the road.
Prior to turning over questions, I would like to give Stefan Broadus an opportunity to introduce himself in this new role. You already know him, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Council, for having me. It's been an honor managing our capital program over the last 5 years. I will miss the presentations on what PCI means and similar items. I always enjoy those. And jokes aside, it truly has been an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to manage our capital program, and I'm very excited to take on this next project. So thank you again.
Wonderful.
So any questions?
Well, yeah, just to welcome Mr. Broadus. I think I speak on behalf of all of us and say we're very excited to hear the news that you'll be following in Anthony's footsteps. It's a big, loss to us, but yeah, I think it's a great handoff here. And yes, questions. Councilor Raff, you're first.
Not a question, comment. Director Hooper, just want to commend you on an amazing job through this wastewater treatment plant project. There couldn't have been a better leader, advocate, questioner, and analyst, everything. You've done a terrific job on it. So just want to say thank you. And the City of San Diego is going to be very lucky to have you. But this project wouldn't be where it's at. I mean, not this specific step in the process, but everything leading up to it, you've done a great job leading this project. I mean, you're obviously an absolute expert in this subject. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Councilor Raff. It was a lot. Thank you.
Councilor Raff. Councilor Boop. Questions on this
Question,
proposal?
no, I just want to echo, because I have to say it myself, you know, I work with you, I've worked with Anthony, you presented to me, you know, the place over there on Pilkington, and that was my first meeting with you, and I was impressed back then, and I saw all the project you oversaw here in this city. I think, you know, you were right to be emotional. This guy is a wonderful man, and I appreciate you are humble. You've been here. I saw everywhere you go in, they're gonna be happy to have an employee like you, and that should be mentioned. You are an outstanding member of this city, and we'll miss you a lot. And congratulations for the new, and good luck for the.
Thank you, Councilor Boop. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you, Councilor Boop.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Boop. Did you have any questions on the multi-$100-million wastewater project? No.
I heard of Wilsonville, and I say, I read all these things, but I wanted to, you think it will be an international body or something, people around, what is the chance we have of having something like EPCOR or something like American firms working on our.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The reason I say international is, and I'm intentionally not naming companies by name because I don't want any people listening thinking, oh, they're already thinking about brand X or brand Y. A couple of these design, build, operate integrators are very large international companies, and I can think of two of them on the top of my head, and a third one is also an international company, but it's a United States company. And not to get too long-winded, there's not a lot of turnkey greenfield opportunities like this in the market. I mean, back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, you know, Wilsonville, I think, did their project in, I shouldn't have started that. I think it was 06 or, you know, 05 or somewhere around there. And there's just not a lot of them. And they're very interesting, and it's a very popular model in Europe. And people who do what I do for a living have always thought, you know, it makes sense for smaller communities to really think of this turnkey, that they don't want to start their own wastewater utility to build a single-purpose wastewater plant, and I totally get that. And so I think it's an attractive marquee project. It's an interesting project. It's an interesting site. It's got an environmental and city planning element to it that's just super interesting. I just think it's a neat project. And so again, you know, my gut is what it is, and the market sounding will reflect, or will, you know, give us some indication on whether it's as attractive as I think it is.
Thank you. Councilor Winland. Thank you, Councilor.
Well, I know we have to be out of here by 6, so I'll try to keep my comments about
Councilor Afghan
Anthony
has a question.
under an hour. I echo what everyone else has said. Anthony asked me to be on kind of the exploratory group with this 5.5 years ago or whatever. I've been along in the process, and all I can say is that the team that Anthony put together, and working with Portland, working with EPCOR, working with the city, working with all the different neighborhood groups, exemplifies the model person who you want quarterbacking the project. And I have to say, throughout this process, it's been an exceptionally detailed, relationship built, and complex project, because we've had the city of Portland involved, We've got a new technology. We have a new concept of how we would run the plant. We're changing owners, sort of. We're changing who's operating and who's going to be kind of over it. And Anthony has led everything with grace, honor, information, humbleness to get everybody in the room happy. He's met with neighborhoods, he's met with everybody under the sun, and he's just done an exceptional job. And I will say that this is just one of the things that he's done for Lake Oswego. I just want to brag on Anthony a little bit. When he ran operations, I would say that this city was just exceptionally well operated. You could call him anytime and he would solve problems, and that's his nature. And so San Diego is one heck of a lucky and fortunate organization. We don't want Anthony to leave, but Anthony should leave because he's going to continue to fly and do great jobs. So to that, we are going to miss you, but more importantly, we're excited for you. So that's number one. To get kind of back to the business of the biggest capital budgetary process that Lake Oswego is ever going to have, I just want to make it clear, after going through all this process, we had a great relationship with EPCOR figuring this project out. I want everyone to know that we've had a fairly big change in direction by not moving forward with EPCOR, and I think people need to know why that decision was made. EPCOR would still be on the project, but one of the things that they required was what we thought was a very unreasonable return on their money, to the point of it was $60, $70, $80 million profit for them at the expense of the Lake Oswego ratepayers and the Portland ratepayers. We thought that was unreasonable. We built into this project, and I have to give a shout out to our Assistant Attorney Boone, who made sure that the contract that we wrote gave us plenty of off-ramps, and off-ramps with dignity and lack of future litigation. And that's what we're doing, is we're off-ramping from EPCOR, and we're going out in the pursuit of a different arrangement. And it was done to ensure that we are getting the most equitable and best value for our ratepayers, and for servicing, and to make sure this project works well for the next 30 or 40 or 50 years. So I want to be very clear that this change in direction did not come lightly. We're not talking about it a lot because we've been part of this process for 5.5 years, and we've been following this, so we're comfortable with it. This is not the first time we've talked about this. The unfortunate part is that EPCOR wanted too big of a bite of the apple, and we had to come through and make a hard decision. So as a city, and with Portland, which I know is has been a great partner of ours as we go through, and I would say that the process that we went through got us to a point to where we're very comfortable moving forward with breaking the relationship. We do not feel like we were handcuffed to EPCOR. Great company to work with, very nice. They played a few games, which I would expect from the private sector, and we were able to, because of the team that Anthony put together, we were able to evaluate and make a good decision on information that was really super well informed and very well articulated to us. So while we don't take this decision lightly, it's the right decision, and I know the headlines on sewer plants are not quite the same as some other subjects that we have, like skate parks and swimming pools, but this is a big investment. We're going to do it right. It may cost us a little bit of time, but I do think from Kyle's comments, I do think the market is probably open to a alternative, and we'll find out. We hope that it'll all be within the confines and the constructs of what we have, and we'll see. But we're expecting that from the market, and we're expecting us to have a good glide path to a sewer treatment plant in the future. And certainly with Stefan on board, which was a great transition. Thank you, Erica, for giving him up. Makes her job harder, but anyway, a couple questions. You talked about getting an operator. We can actually build it and run it ourselves too, right? Sure. If we wanted to?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you wanted to build up your own staff, hire your own staff to run the plant, that's certainly something you can do. And you could also bridge the completion of the design and the construction with, whether you can call it an extended commissioning period or a little operations period in order to train the staff to run the plant. There's all kinds of models out there that would allow you to transition to a municipally operated facility. Absolutely.
so I think this decision, while we didn't want to make it, it does offer us some different glide paths that would all work for us, right?
Certainly, and there, the model identified in the staff report, the DBOM model we keep talking about, is just one. It's just one of many variants that are open to you vis-a-vis this off-ramp. There's any number of models that that we could talk about, but sure, municipal operations are definitely in play.
Okay, and then from the standpoint of the $7 million that we're talking about tonight, is that our 50% share, or is that's the total package divided by 2? Just to get that.
That's the total amount. And to your point, Portland is responsible for 31% of that, and we're having talks to them about that right now. So,
okay, and they're on board with what we're doing.
yes.
And so really, you just need a from an I or a motion, and I think is my friend Councilor Afghan, wherever he is. Oh, there you are. You're up there on the screen. I bet she has some questions to ask.
That he does. Okay, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Wendland. Councilor Afghan, then Councilor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hooper, I echo what Councilor Rapp and Mahbub said about your service to Lake Oswego, and I certainly echo what Councilor Wetland said about how you have been carrying this project forward. From experience, I can tell that a project like this certainly has its own challenges, and you have certainly moved through those challenges with grace and honored the process. Thank you very much. And I conclude my comment about you by saying thank you for your service to City of Lake Oswego. On the project level question, I think I've made some assumption that I want to validate those assumptions with you. First one is that tonight we are making a decision to conclude our contract with the existing vendor. And what we will do going forward is that we will complete the design, and what we do after that is to be determined, and options will be explored and recommendations will come to the City Council. Is that assumption correct?
It's very, very close. With the one exception is that we would hire a group of firms to also complete the design from 90 to 100% and also and do construction as well. So they would finish that last piece.
Okay. Then the second question that I have is for the design contract. Are we going to use the same existing design companies to finish the design, or are we going to hire other design companies to finish the design from 90% to 100%?
So there's multiple ways to go about this, but the one that the first one we're recommending, going to DBOM, is that we'd hire a group of firms to finish it from 90 to 100% and to own the design going forward into construction. I think it's important that they own the design. I mean accountability for the design, right? That is an option that we could do if we find out the market is not responsive. We could potentially contract to finish that design with the existing architecture and engineering firm, and then bid it out in any number of ways, including with doing it in-house operating maintenance. I mean, there's a lot of different variations of that. So there are options. Let me turn over to Kyle if you want to add anything to that.
No, I can't add anything to that. I mean, at some point, you're going to want to finish the design to 100%. I just want to point out, though, that if you do an off-ramp, that if you do select the DBOM approach, you have more than enough design for the technical bridging documents that would enable completion of the RFP solicitation. You have way more than enough. That said, when you get proposals, though, the proposals would include a price for construction and a price to finish the design, because I would recommend to the city that you finish it to 100%. There are some DBO projects that actually get all the way through without 100% designs, and I don't recommend you doing that.
So are we also then agreeing with your recommendation tonight, or is that at a later point? Because I believe that the city should complete the design to 100%, especially with the existing designers, so we don't pay an additional cost to another company to ramp up to the existing level of information and accepting responsibility for somebody else's design. So I'm not sure where we're drawing the line past saying we are concluding our contract with the existing vendor, but past that, I'm not sure what I'm agreeing to. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I think what we're asking the council is to authorize a payment for about $7.2 million, and then give direction to staff to start exploring what the options could be for this next phase, and then come back to you with those options and have a further discussion. The intent is not to decide that definitively tonight. I think we're just floating some ideas of the things that Stefan and team will take a look at, and we'll bring it back to you at a later time. Hopefully, I should stop speaking for you, Stefan, and let you, but at this point, but.
That answered my question, Director Hooper. One last question. Does the existing contract that the designers have with the existing vendor, does it have novation clauses? So in case if we wanted to use them, we don't have to renegotiate terms and conditions and costs and those kind of things.
Yes, and I'll give a chance for Jill Jamieson to jump in here. I saw you nod your head, so I thought maybe I'd give you a chance to go ahead and speak for a second. And I do want to give a shout out to her. She's been pivotal in this project in helping our city. So I will really miss working with Jill, and I want to give you a chance to answer that, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was showing body language. My apologies. Yes, you're absolutely right. The contract allows for you to have access to any of the subcontractors, including the design firm, if you want to just proceed in that manner. And just speaking to what was just said, the standard process for this would be for the team to come back to you and talk about the pros and cons of the different approaches, whether it's DBO, whether it's design build, whether it's design, design bid build, et cetera. Some of it is about your risk going forward. Some of it is about future budgeting and those sorts of things. I think that's a future conversation. But yeah, you have all the rights that are possibly conceived of to access the subcontractors and use them under the existing terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any more questions.
Thank you, Councilor Afghan. Councilor Verdick.
I'm going to make this really short. I have no questions. I just really wanted to echo what my fellow councilor said, Anthony. We will really miss you. You have been a tremendous asset, and I appreciate all your teamwork within other departments, within the neighborhoods, within our local organizations. So just a heartfelt thank you very much, and we will miss you. And enjoy San Diego and the sunshine.
Thank you so much. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you very, very much.
I just had a question about the, and then I see your hand up, Councilor Corrigan, the Aqua Dorito. How much of the design is centered around that technology as a percent?
It's all centered around that technology.
It's all of it, right?
Well, if you take out,
So we need someone that, but is there anyone else other than?
There's parts of the site, I'm sorry to interrupt you, go ahead.
No, please tell me, that's all right.
there's parts of the site development that is, that's probably reusable, but, the progression of the design started with Aqua Narita based primarily because of the footprint considerations of that site. You're really limited to Aqua Narita, which is a sequential batch reactor process, small footprint. Your other option was MBR, membrane bioreactor. They had to commit pretty early on where the tanks go. So the short answer is it's an Aqua Narita design.
Didn't EPCOR, do they just license Aqua Narita, or is it their, do they own that technology?
I don't want to get too far out of my lane on how it works, but I know the technology is licensed, it is proprietary, and EPCOR needed, approval and licensing to use it as an application on
So it's not their
this project.
It's not their technology.
No.
No, another firm could use it, but are there other firms
Right.
in the US using Aqua Narita besides EPCOR?
Well, so EPCOR has not operated Aqua Narita before. This would be the first one for them.
Oh, that was their first?
Yes. Aqua Narita does have demonstration plants, and they do have training programs and things like that for it. But to answer your question, there are 5 existing plants in the U.S., so it's an emerging market. There are a lot in development right now in the U.S., but there are other companies that have done this. Yes, that's where I'll stop. Yeah.
Okay. But so would our path forward, as we seek a proposal, not be contingent upon them, assimilating into this Aqua Narita design?
That's,
Go ahead.
You want it?
Yeah, go for it, and I'll add to it.
That's a great question. I mean, and we were talking about this recently internally, is that our solicitation document and the technical bridging documents that go along with it is going to be strongly voiced, without being biased, but strongly voiced to say, hey, look, our expectations are we don't reinvent the wheel here. Aqua Narita is really advantageous for a number of reasons. Footprint, and you guys have a peaking factor that's ridiculous. And so Aqua Narita is very good at treating high flow situations. It's really an ideal system for this application. And we're going to express that and say, look, our expectation is your DBO solution, your DBOM solution is going to involve the efforts done to date. And we don't think that's unreasonable in light of where this market's going. But we will offer them the ability to say, you can be responsive, but you can also offer us an alternative. The problem with them offering an alternative, which might be MBR, is that they're going to be left with only performance requirements for the facility, and they'll have to design that thing to 30% on their own dime to cost it. So that's kind of the balance we're going to have to do. And it's also going to involve a lot of, I hate to say marketing, but a lot of educating of the DBOM consortia to say, look, we want something that's based on what we think is a really good technology.
And I believe.
So to add on to that, one thing that Stefan and his team will do is do market sounding and also do some version of an industry day in order to ask the market that specific question, among other questions, of whether they would reuse, do Aqua Narita as their proposed technology. So that is going to be research that the team is going to do. And I'll also add, we have already vetted the 90% design through DEQ and have a draft permit on it, in that they've basically approved it. So for teams coming in, when you have an innovative design like this that has technology that DEQ has already approved, we've de-risked a lot of this project. And I think we'll find out at the market, but we all feel like the market will respond, but we'll find out for sure. So, well, Stefan will find out for sure. Yeah.
We'll let you know.
Yeah, okay,
Well,
thank you.
the community was really behind the technology too, because it's so much more efficient than the other option.
It
that was
is.
a big selling point.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, MBR is 4 times as much energy use as that of Aqua Narita. 4 times. It's 25% of it is Aqua Narita.
And again, the DEQ point is a good one. Again, your peak flows, your difference between your baseline average daily flow and peaks during storm events. Aqua Narita's ability to treat everything to secondary standards, DEQ really likes that, and why wouldn't they like that? And you don't have to build select treatment or anything like that for storm events.
I see that Ms. Jameson has her hand up.
You're muted, Jill.
Sorry about that. It's not a meeting till somebody tries to speak with the mute button on. So yeah, I just wanted to add that the terms of art that we're talking about is you can establish a baseline for aqua narrata in any procurement document, allow for alternative technical concepts. Those alternative technical concepts, they have to make the case that it's in the city's best interest. So let's say a new technology came out yesterday that none of us are aware of, and they can build this in the small footprint, et cetera, et cetera. And then you may want to look at that, but you're not required to. And if nobody can do the aqua narrata, then I think to a previous comment, then you might want to consider just design, bid, build. Do it yourself if that's what you have. You do have detailed designs, you have access to the designers, et cetera. But this process that will be laid out should give you that flexibility. The market will tell you if they're willing and able to do aqua narrata. My gut tells me that they are. But if you find out that they're not, and there's no alternative technology that makes sense in an affordable manner, you still always have the opportunity of going back to design, bid, build yourself and just getting a builder in to finish this up.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Councilor Corrigan.
So, of course, I want an opportunity to say thank you. I appreciate the education. So I did come up to speed on this pretty quickly, being a new kid on the block, and you were really helpful. And I hope you have a wonderful life in California.
Thank you.
My question has to do with your opinion about any potential for future cost escalations, because that's where we ran into the big bump on this one with the DBOM. So will we know up front when you said you're going to have 90% and you're going to have these costs and this is what they're going to be? Do you feel fairly confident in that?
Well, yeah. Let's just assume that the aqua narrata approach is what works, and that we have interest to complete the design and construct the facility. The inflation that we had over the last 3 years, I hate to say it's unprecedented. And as an economist by training, it worries me to no end saying that that's unprecedented, because it's unprecedented until it happens again. From what our construction group at Corolla have seen, things are softening down back to more reasonable levels for raw materials and trade labor, and steel, and cement, concrete, that type of thing. That said, we do have the ability in the solicitation document, when we're requesting pricing, to have a shared risk profile on inflators for your fixed design build costs. So let's just assume, I know we're way down the road from deciding what this model is going to be, but let's say it's design, build, operate, maintain, just for laughs. Your proposals will have two elements to it. You'll have a fixed design build price, which will be a guaranteed price to finish the design and construct the facility. That's guaranteed. And so that risk of inflation from the time they submit the proposal to the time the facility is constructed is on the contractor, unless the city wants to share that risk, which might be advantageous too, because you prevent the pricing of risk. I know I'm being a little long-winded, but there are methods where you can share the risk of extreme inflation with your contractor against the fixed design build price that they provide you. The same thing with your long-term operations and maintenance agreement. Let's say it's a 20 or 30-year contract. You're going to request the first-year fee of O&M. Then you're also going to ask them to guarantee an annual inflation number. And again, that's a risk transfer proposition that they can either say, hey, you know what, we'll adjust it based on CPI in the Portland metropolitan area or whatever, or we'll charge you that CPI unless that CPI delta becomes more than 5%, and then you have to share it with us. So there's many ways for you to share the risk transfer of inflation. Can we insulate ourselves completely? Not necessarily, but if there's a 2-year construction period for the project, you could argue that your period of exposure for construction commodities and trade labor is somewhat limited just by the duration of the construction. I know that's a very word salad answer, but there are ways to mitigate that exposure. Jill might have a comment on inflation as a private financing person. Sorry, Jill, maybe you don't.
Well, I would just add a little bit broader. The question really becomes one of is there possibilities for price increases? There's always going to be some level of possibility. Kyle is absolutely right. I just was at a conference with the White House, and over the last 3 years, we've had a over 50% increase in construction prices for highways. 50%. It's a little bit less in the water sector, but not much. So this has been a driving factor. It has mitigated, it has moderated. Can we guarantee it going forward? No. But I think the real question becomes one of, is there a value offset? One of the counselors, I can't see you guys very well, but one of the counselors mentioned that one of the driving forces of this was the cost of private finance was adding about $82 million to the overall price tag. The question becomes one of, by going out in a new procurement, can you get a cost that is less than $82 million more on a facility that costs approximately $168 million overall? And the answer is yes, we think you can. If inflation triggers to that level, I think we've all got bigger problems. But that's really, I think, what you're looking at is a life cycle cost on this. And the life cycle cost, it's not just the inflation, it's offsetting the private financing costs, which we're doing in part through the use of public financing. But there's a buffer there that we're just trying to address, and part of that's through public financing. We do think that that buffer will come in even with a new bid, even if the prices go up 3%, just to say something, and I'm not sure that they would. Your overall cost would still be reduced versus the original sort of approach with EPCOR. On top of that, we do think under a competitive environment, there's opportunities to reduce some of the other elements. So there are markups, for instance, on the design build cost, there are markups on the O&M cost, the operating maintenance cost that were bid a long time ago, putting those back out to market. I think Kyle could speak to this. We do believe that there's possibility of savings there as well. So looking at this objectively, we find that there are quite a few areas for savings that, regardless of inflation, should result in a lower overall project costs going forward.
Right, I'm just to put a, not exclamation point, but piling on just one little bit, it's, since Jill brings up a good point, is that your open book, collaborative, progressive process, it's a great model, but it's inherently weak in terms of generally getting cost competition, price competition among people. It's very good about being open book, and the procurement process is very transparent, but the actual competitive nature of it, it just doesn't exist like it would in a model that we were talking about today. And just one final thing, when we talk about asking for fixed pricing, the industry expects a solicitation document to say, hey, give us your guaranteed fixed design build price to finish the design and construct the facility. And oh, by the way, we'll give you an adjustment based on CPI, which is fair and reasonable. I do caution owners to say, no, just give us what it's going to be with no inflator, because you can end up paying that anyway, irrespective of what happens with inflation. So.
And just to boil that down, right now in the negotiation, it's hard for us to know for certainty whether or not we have the best possible deal. By going this route and introducing it to market forces, we will know what the market bears. It's going to give us a price tag. And so I think there's some certainty that's introduced through this procurement process that could be really great for the city as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thanks for the detailed presentation, the great staff report. Okay, we're going to ask for a motion now to authorize the city manager to provide notice to EPCOR Foothills Water Project that the term of the preliminary services agreement has been completed, and approve reimbursement to the EFWP for $7,171,092.12 to the penny, and direct staff to explore competitive procurement methods, including special procurement and alternative contracting methods for final design, construction, operation, and maintenance of a new wastewater treatment facility.
Second.
Move.
Oh, yeah, okay. Move.
I move.
Second.
Yeah.
All right, is there any discussion?
Because I just want to make sure that Stefan knows that part of the deal of taking this job is that you have to drink the first glass of water that comes out of the plant.
Yes, that's good.
Anthony was going to do it, but that's been passed on to you, just so you know that.
My wastewater professor in college did that, and I'll let him be the one.
Can I just offer for the record that this isn't a potable reuse project. This is a secondary treatment facility. I don't advise drinking the water.
Doing it.
Oh, you're no fun.
We've heard it's safe enough. That's what we were told. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Councilor Afghan. All right, motion passes 7-0. Anthony, when I came off the council the first time, Anthony gave me a mug, a Chevy Bolt mug for our work together on EVs, and it's a very large coffee mug, and I love it. And it's very smart because I drink out of it often, and when I drink out of it, I think of you. It's a very good gift to give. Oh, how's Anthony doing today? But you are such a treasure to the city, not only for your technical knowledge and expertise, but more so for who you are as a person and what you bring to this organization and this community. We're going to miss you. You're well suited for your job heading up leaf blower banning in San Diego County. You're going to be great at it. Lucky to have you. Good luck.
Thank you so very much.
We have something for you too. Oh yeah, no, we're adjourned.
Oh, we're adjourned.
Yes. So